Hey everyone, welcome to another short video courtesy of investingsuccess.ca. Today is the 18th of January 2024. In this video installment, I want to introduce you to an individual that you perhaps have not heard of before. His name is Georg Bayer. His Americanized name would be Georg Bayer. He arrived in the United States from Germany in and around 1900. He came with very powerful knowledge of astrology. Now, I'm not sure where he learned this in Germany or from whom he learned it. He never did say. But once he arrived in the US for the next, 40 years, he shared his insights through various small publications. And a lot of these survive today. You can buy them if you visit websites like the Sacred Science Institute in California. If you fish around hard enough on the internet, you might find the occasional one that someone has posted in PDF format. And that's what I've been doing this week. And I managed to find some of his old stuff. And I've looked at it, and strangely enough, it is as valid today, 2024, as it was back in the 1930s. So the man was on to something, and it's just a shame that he's not more well known. Everybody talks about, W.D. Gann, and that's all we hear about. But Bayer was right in the heart of it. I mean, this was the era, not only of Gann, but McWhirter. J.P. Morgan had his own astrologer. And then we had Donald Bradley and the Bradley model in the early 1940s. I mean, this era was the heart and the soul of astrology before it was swept under the carpet by the academics from places like Harvard and Yale. And they had to get rid of it because it was working too well. And if the average person on the street ever managed to figure it out, that would have been very detrimental to the big bankers that ran Wall Street. So the academics at Harvard and Yale, they came up with their bogus theories, the market efficiency hypothesis and the frontier efficiency curve, and you've heard all of the various other names. And astrology basically died a very slow death thereafter. But it is coming back into vogue, and that's why I publish my financial astrology almanacs every year. And my goal is just to make sure this stuff doesn't completely die and go away. Now, getting back to Bayer, one of his favorite planets to focus on was the smallest of our planets, the planet Mercury. So let's dig a little bit deeper here and see just what he had to say about the littlest of the planets. Now, I'm going to caution you here. Before I get into this, if you did want to start applying this, you will either need some kind of a software program, and I'm using Optima, and it's not cheap. It costs me, 650 American dollars a year to renew my subscription. But because I'm a writer, I get a lot of use out of it. There are cheaper astrology programs out there. Your other option, if you don't want the astrology, is to get your hands on a heliocentric ephemeris. And if you already have my Financial Astrology 2024 Almanac, I've got a whole chapter in there on shorter cycles. And in that chapter on short cycles, I do offer you some information on the planet Mercury, which ties into Georg Bayer's work. Now, Bayer was cognizant that Mercury, in heliocentric format, that is to say, if you were standing on the sun from your point of observation and watching the planets go around the sun, you would notice that Mercury makes a revolution of the sun in 88 days. That's its heliocentric orbit. Now, it does not do so in a perfectly circular manner. The orbit of Mercury is rather egg-shaped, oval, somewhat elliptical, I guess you could say. And so as a result of that, there will be a time when Mercury is closest to the sun, and that is called its perihelion point. There will be a time when it is farthest away from the sun, and that is called its aphelion point. And so Georg Bayer noticed that these events of perihelion and aphelion were actually quite revealing in how they could influence or correlate, I guess, to changes of trend on the markets. Now, the market that he primarily studied was wheat. I'm going to show you some examples other than just wheat in this video. So let's start off with a chart here of gold futures. And this chart covers all of 2023 and takes us into the first little bit here of 2024. And so what I've done here is I've used my Optima program and I've overlaid the chart with events of Mercury aphelion and Mercury perihelion. And so the large letter Q denotes aphelion events and the small letter Q denotes perihelion. And so, for example, we started off 2024 with the price of gold dropping. Now, what's interesting is midway through that decline, we had Mercury at aphelion. And it's very curious how that occurred right midway through that move. And then we had a powerful rally in the month of March and into April. And so when Mercury got to its perihelion point, in Georg Bayer's world, that was a time to be very cautious, very alert for a change of trend. And looking at this chart in March of 2023, with respect to gold futures, did we get a change of trend? Sure we did. There it is. And then that was followed shortly thereafter by an aphelion event. And look at what happened. You had this big spike up and the market just rolled right over and started heading south. And then in late June, we had a perihelion event. And look what happened. Makes a sharp V bottom. And then starting in late July, you had a move down. And again, pretty well halfway through that move down, you had your aphelion event. Then you recovered and faded back again, made an attempt at a recovery. It was unable to take out this swing high from August. That in itself would have been a sign to be very, very careful. But look what else was happening. There's a perihelion event, and what did the price of gold do? It headed south. Finally made its bottom in October, rallied sharply, but the rally ran out of steam. Where? At a Mercury aphelion event. More recently, what have we seen on the price of gold? Here is a perihelion event, and what has gold done? Peaked and rolled over. So Georg Bayer was making these kinds of observations back in the 1930s, and here we are in 2024 using a commodity that he didn't even consider in the 1930s, and it works. It absolutely works. Now let's move on here. Okay, so as I said, his primary commodity of study was wheat, Chicago wheat. And the takeaway from all of his work, as far as I'm concerned, is that we, the human animal, are somehow influenced by the motion of planet Mercury. Now, the other observation that Bayer made was that the times when heliocentric Mercury passed by heliocentric Jupiter and heliocentric Saturn. He said those times are very important times to watch because they could correlate to changes of trend. So now let's take a look at a chart where I've overlaid Mercury 0 degrees to heliocentric Jupiter and Mercury 0 degrees to heliocentric Saturn. Let's just see what that gives us. And I'm going to use wheat futures as a way of looking at this. And so if we go back to December of 2022, what do we see? Leading into the latter part of December, we had Mercury making its 0 degree conjunction with Saturn. Shortly thereafter, it made its 0 degree conjunction with Jupiter. And look what happened. Literally days later, the price of wheat declines. Then it recovers again and it falls back. And look what happens here. We make some kind of a double bottom pattern, but that's right at the confluence of Mercury 0 degrees Saturn and Mercury 0 degrees Jupiter. So, thank you, Mr. Bayer. Again, you've discovered something that is very valid, very powerful. Now, look at what happened in June of 2023. Price of wheat surged higher. And where did it actually end up failing? Well, it failed at the Mercury 0 degrees to heliocentric Jupiter. And then the price of wheat declined and it rallied again and fell apart again. And as it was falling apart, the midway point of this entire decline, from there all the way down to there, the midway point happened to come just as Jupiter and Saturn were at that 0 degree conjunction to heliocentric Mercury. And then later in 2023, you had those conjunctions again, and that actually gave us a peak in the market. And that peak has not yet been tested. The price of wheat continues to erode. And I am watching then to see when the next Jupiter-Saturn, the Mercury-Saturn, Mercury-Jupiter conjunction events take place, because that is very likely going to be some kind of a major event on the wheat market. So, I could sit here all day and show you chart after chart after chart. I'm not going to do that. This is powerful stuff. And it's unfortunate, as I say, that Mr. Bayer is not more widely known, as is Mr. Gann. But if you can find some time in your busy schedule, and if you can get your hands on the heliocentric data, take a look at Mercury passing heliocentric Jupiter and Saturn. Overlay that on a chart of your choice, be it NASDAQ, S&P, wheat, corn, soybeans, gold, silver, whatever. You're going to find that there is a very strong correlation to either turning points or to the halfway interval in more extended rallies or extended declines. And then take a look also at the perihelion and aphelion events. Now, in the coming week or two, I'm going to give you more of these Georg Bayer type videos, because there's a whole lot more to talk about other than what we've seen here. And I'm still doing my research and trying to compile everything and piece it all together for you. So do take some time to study it and take some time to play around with it. And in the meantime, just remember, you can find me at investingsuccess.ca. Give some thought to subscribing to one of my newsletters. You can follow me as a subscriber on Substack at Planetary Trader. You can look at some of my courses on udemy.com, and I'm considering putting together a whole new course on this Georg Bayer stuff. 2024 Almanac is obviously selling quite well, And whatever you do, please, please, please always follow the bloody trend. Um, Trying to just use astrology blindly can get you in sometimes too early, sometimes too late. Follow the trend, use a trend indicator. I explain how these things work in Follow the Trend, when to buy, when to sell. And if you combine everything, follow the trend, the astrology, some good charting, you can do some damage out there. So thanks for listening today, and we will talk very, very soon. Have a great day.